Doom, doom, doom. Just wait for this thing to pop up so that I could start seeing stuff. Where are you at? There we are. All
And
right.
Mark, I'm going to share on my Facebook page, just so you know.
You want to go ahead and tag me in that too?
Okay.
I'm still trying to figure out how to do all the technical side of this stuff while I'm on my computer, while I'm on my phone, while I'm doing this, while I'm doing that. So just because I might look like I'm tech savvy, people, I'm really not. It's a learn as we go. All right. So should we get started? Should I kick this off? Great morning, great evening, good afternoon, depending where you're at on this beautiful planet, this amazing universe. Welcome to Brown and Spiritual AF, where me and the amazing, beautiful, gorgeous, talented, and extremely educated Dr. Isela dive a little deep into how spirituality shaped our current reality. Right. And today we have an amazing guest, right? Mr. Ivan Garcia. No relation between the two that we know of this moment, people, because this is live in the moment and we're just doing this as we go. So, with that being said, we're trying this new platform, this new, what would you call it? This new outline of the way we do things. We're actually bringing on guests. I don't know if you guys been with us this whole time, right? But it's just been me and Isela kind of just shooting the shit, getting to know each other through this. Now we're bringing on guests, and it's been an amazing one. The last one was a Garcia too, Boo Boo Garcia. Now we have Ivan Garcia, right? We're just gonna do all the Garcias in the world. Then we'll move on to the next, right? But here we are on this amazing. What's today? Sunday, episode
Yep.
number. I don't even know.
17?
17. Holy smoker bobbles. But anyhow, Missy Sella, would you like to talk about anything before we actually get started and getting to know a little bit more about Ivan Garcia?
No, but I do want to put an invitation out there to folks. Like,
Yes.
I think if there are other folks out there who have been following us and are brown, we would love to hear your voice. We would love to know what your spiritual journey is like. So contact us. And we are so happy to have. Okay, say your name again for me.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be here. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Isela, for the lovely introduction. My name is Ivan Garcia, and I'm talking to you from Portugal, Lisbon.
Awesome. So Ivan, right? I want to
Yes.
make sure I get, because my name is Isela, and if you can imagine how many different ways my name has been said or pronounced, so I try really hard to be respectful of people's pronunciation of names. So
Thank,
welcome. We're so glad you're here.
thank you, Dr. Isela. It's a pleasure, and I know your pain. I know the same thing, but I'm okay with that because people don't know better, right? Unless
Yeah.
we educate them, and that's
Right,
also something that you do very well in this series, in this show.
right.
It took me a million years to get Yvonne's name right. And I really made it known because I really didn't know how to say it for the longest time. And if you watch some of the older videos, you hear me say, damn it, I don't even know if I said that shit right.
We're learning, right, Mark? We're all learning. So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Of course, myself. Well, I was born in Portugal. I was born in Lisbon. Lived all my life here. And well, should I do a complete resume or should I go and highlight specific parts of my life?
Well, what I think we're really interested in is sort of your spiritual journey. Like, what were the significant experiences that brought you to the place that you are now? And where are you now, like in terms of spiritual development? So kind of wherever you think, right, has been most significant to you in your life.
All right, great question. Yeah, that will give me more guideline to go. Well, spiritual journey. I think this is a really interesting topic to talk. And I can say that I've become more aware of my own spiritual journey in the last, let's say, maybe 5 years, 6 years. I'm 32 now. So I've been spiritual as a kid and as a teenager, but then I just let myself put a blind on my eyes and just go with the flow, or no, or go with society's flow in this case. But anyway, I could say that I've become more aware of my spiritual through some events, some experiences, starting with the smallest, perhaps by reading some books that tackle spirituality. Although at the time, I didn't even know exactly what was spirituality or what was the main topic. But then it's like, I think we all here can feel that. We start to question, what if, or is there anything else? Does this make sense to me? And then we start to question things, go on the inside, on the outside. And that's how these stages, these different events started making me more aware of things. And as I was becoming more aware, or this awakening was happening, let's call it. It was a gradual awakening, but I started becoming even more interested and seeking and looking for more spiritual, let's say, experiences and activities and books. That's mostly what happened. Now, I have very significant events in my life, which one of them I can share a bit later. But in a nutshell, that's how I became more spiritual. And to answer your question, Dr. Isela, what is the stage of spirituality that I'm in? Now, this is a deep this is a deep question. Let's just say that I'm aware, that I'm conscious of my own spirituality, and I'm respectful of other people's spirituality views, other different points of views. So that's the point that I'm in, and I'm very, let's say, I feel very well on my own skin at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so you mentioned a little bit about your spiritual, I guess, influences when you were younger, and then you kind of, shifted gears a little bit, right? In terms of your early experiences, what were you exposed to? What were the things that were taught to you or expected of you?
Great question. Yes. Well, as a kid, I used to like to draw a lot. I love drawing. I love to just go and play outdoors in the nature, because I really generally felt good doing those things, right? And nobody needed to tell me to do those things or to put me doing those things. I would go there by my own. All right. And in my drawings, in my art, things were connected. I used to dream through my drawings, like dream big, dreaming with the universe, with the stars, with the inventions, with everything, with dragons. So I think that in that time, that stage of my life, I was spiritually curious with everything else, curious with my universe, with my exterior universe. That was it. That was the stage I was. Well, but then as I was growing up, and I think that it happens with a lot of people as well, society starts to give us their own direction. And it's like, okay, you don't go this way, you go this way. Why? You don't ask, you go this way because it's better, and you go. Okay, and as I went through my teenagehood and later college, I started neglecting, I started ignoring my, let's say, my soul's desires, so to speak, and started seeking, let's say, other people's opinions and society's opinions about, for example, career choices, even the clothes that I was wearing, how my own behavior, those things. So I started listening to the exterior opinions and ignoring my own opinion about it. Okay, that was such a different stage. But then, as I told you, after college, I started becoming curious again. I don't really remember the particular event that triggered my curiosity, but there was one book. There was definitely one book that I read, and I was not into spirituality at that time, that made me dream again. And that book was is The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma. And in a nutshell, it tells about, if people don't know, it's the story of a very successful man, or so he thinks, a very successful man that goes through a health issue. And he has everything that society approves. He has fame, he has wealth, he has, women, he has businesses, everything. But then he has a very serious illness. And then he like the book suggests, he sells everything. All his property, sells everything to the last penny. And then he goes into his own spiritual journey. So he just goes, I will not say more because I don't want to spoil, but he just goes. And then he comes back a totally new man. And this book, it was like this light bulb on my head. Okay, so someone lived this and wrote this. Okay, and I thought, okay, so maybe things are not the way they tell me. Maybe there's something more up there. And that was the book that was a big trigger for me in terms of spirituality. And then I started reading other books, but that book was for me like the strongest trigger at that time. Okay, and then I started moving on and on and on. And I believe that I would like to define for everybody that spirituality, if you ask me, how do I define spirituality? I believe that's a very, very personal thing. It's a very, very personal thing because I believe that spirituality is very personal and everybody lives their own spirituality. Okay, it's you can call it whatever you want, but your soul's voice, your soul's desire, your essence, energy. But spirituality for me is very personal. Now, of course, that we can and we should talk about it like we are doing in the show. And I'm really happy actually to be talking with you guys. And this might be, just to take note of it, this might be another significant event in not just my life, but in our lives when it comes to spirituality awakening, right? Just Definitely. Talking about it, just talking. So here we are. Thank you. Thank you for the great questions.
Definitely, right? Because these are all significant moments, right? There is no moment that doesn't matter, right? So as you were talking, you were going through all that, right? I'm curious about, how did your parents play a role in this, right? Like, did you grow up in Portugal your whole life? Is that where you've been? And so I'm curious because you guys' culture is totally different than how we grew up over here, right? Like Isela's a Garcia of the United States of America, and you're a Garcia of somewhere in Portugal, right? So what I'm curious about is how did your parents play the role in how you were brought up spiritually, right? Like, did you guys go to a specific church? Did you guys pray to specific God? Did you maybe didn't even go to church and that kind of stuff, right? Because I know here in America, I was brought up Catholic, and I think Miss Isela was brought up Catholic also, but we both have a different like point of view of what our Catholicism bringing up or doctrine was, right? Like we were brainwashed a little bit different. How did that look like for you?
Brainwash. I like that. I like that expression. Well, that's another great question. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. And the thing with the Garcias, that's also very funny. But at the end of the day, we're all connected. We're all on the same team. Yes. But still, that's a great question. So how did my parents or my family play that part in my life? Yes, like you, I was brought up in a Catholic environment as well. And actually in Portugal, the most widespread religion is actually that Catholic religion. However, we were never, even my grandparents, we were never very active practitioners, right? We were, my grandparents were believers. My parents were also believers, but they never really made me go to church. They never really made me pray every day. They, however, taught me to respect the ideals of the church. They taught me to respect other people's ideals, regardless of whatever that is. In terms of spirituality, I believe that although they can be connected, religion and spirituality, they are still independent from each other, right? We can be highly religious and not very spiritual, and vice versa, or both. Still, to answer your question, Mark, in terms of spirituality, we never have any conversation about spirituality, if that's what you're asking. With religion, yes, but not in the topic of spirituality, because I believe that in my family, they were not that awake for spirituality, right? They were not. This was not really a topic of conversation before. They didn't go through, I don't know, any deep spiritual experiences. Therefore, there wasn't any kind of conversation or spiritual education in that sense. What my parents did was they supported me in my decisions. They supported me, let's say, in my hobbies, things that I felt that for me were very spiritual. For example, being out there in the nature, doing sports or drawing or painting or whatever. They actually motivated me to do those things. So in a way, yes, they made a positive impact on my spiritual development in this case.
Okay.
Wow.
It sounds like it's like they were accepting of you. And so that really helped you in terms of finding your truth, right? So it wasn't like they didn't work against. It's like, I think sometimes what happens is we don't have to believe the same thing, but if we're accepting and loving and kind to one another, we are more apt to move or feel, I think, more comfortable in moving into the truth of who we are, because we know we are accepted by our family. Yeah.
Yes, and this is so cool, guys. You hear him say that his parents helped support his curiosity and allowed him to do what it was. And to think about this, guys, he's in another part of the world than we are from here in America. And it seems we have a lot more similarities than we have differences. That's what the cool shit is about this, people. And it blows my mind now that we have like a global community and we got this magic mirror sitting in front of us. We're able to have this conversation while he's in a totally different time zone. Like, what time is it for you over there, brother?
Not right now. It's 7:20 p.m.
Damn, see, we're just getting our Sunday started. His is about to end. So this is what's really cool, man, is that we get to see how much more alike we are than the made up differences we were told about.
Definitely. I completely agree. And let's celebrate diversity. Even if we are not alike, let's celebrate diversity.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell me how your spiritual practices influence your day-to-day life. So what do you bring in day-to-day as you move through, just, because all of us, we work, and here in the United States, we pay taxes. I don't know what it's like in Portugal, but there are things like we have to do.
We also pay taxes here.
Yeah. Taxes are thievery.
Right. There are things that we have to do, right, day to day. So how does your spiritual practice really weave into your day-to-day experiences?
Great question. Yeah. Taxes definitely is a major turnoff for spirituality. So no. All right. But the turn-ons, the positive things. Yeah. Great question, Dr. Isela. At this moment in my life, I really like to connect with myself, to ground myself with some practices throughout the day that include meditation. Although I don't practice every day, I really practice meditation when I feel like it. It's really, I just listen, okay, I feel like meditation right now, I will do it regardless of that. It can be after waking up, which is mostly my preferred time. Just after waking up, I just meditate for 10, 20 minutes. And I vary meditations. I do visualization practices. I think about, for example, my perfect day. For example, how would I love my perfect day to be, to unfold? That's one of my favorites. Another one is, for example, imagine that I have this argument with a person today. All right, and it will make me feel some negative emotions and negative thoughts and feelings. Most likely tomorrow or after tomorrow, when things cool down a bit, I will do this kind of meditation to try to understand, first of all, what happened, and try to put myself on the other person's shoes So I can not only forgive, but more than that, to understand. Because when we understand, the negative emotions just are not as heavy and are not as, let's say, conflicting in that sense. So that's another thing that I do. So basically, I work on myself to improve the relationships that I'm in. All right. Sometimes it's easier said than done. That's true, and it obviously depends on the experience. Depends on, yes, on the level of the conflict, but it works. It works. If not once, then baby steps. Then gradually it will work. Okay. I can say that one of the freaking best things.
You could cuss on here if you want to. It's fine. We're not gonna.
Thank you.
It's brown and spiritual as fuck. All right, I just don't, you know what I mean? that's what makes this platform so amazing. It's called brown and spiritual as fuck. Like, fuck is it's a spiritual word, and if you have an issue with that, well, there's a special place in heaven for you.
Fuck y'all.
All right, thank you guys. Thank you guys. All right, rephrasing, one of the best fucking things that I do.
Yes,
man, to feel completely centered is actually a physical thing, but it translates to spirituality, which is exercise, workout. My workouts, my daily runs, my daily workouts, guys, it's like it's medicine for me. It's medicine. It's, although I'm working the physical part, my physical body, my spiritual body, let's call it, really just is overjoyed. It's therapy. It's healing for me in that sense. That's one of my favorite spiritual practices ever. Although on the outside, it's a physical practice, right? People see me working out and all, but on the inside, I'm really cleansing. I'm really cleaning out everything, removing the toxic shit that is out there, in this case. So that's one of the things. So guys, meditating for me works very well, doing physical exercise as well, and also being around empowering people, being around positive people. They don't have to be spiritual. They don't have to be spiritually developed. No, but their energy is really positive. It really empowers you, brings the best out of you, and the same, right? It's like a synergy. Those are the things that I really love. And the last thing is journaling as well. My own reflections. It's putting the thoughts, what's going inside here, putting them in words, because it's like a double reflection. Okay, first we think, then we are going to write, and we think again and make, okay, so this helps me understand what is going on inside. What is my soul actually telling me, and other stuff like that. Okay, answering your question. Those are my practices and the ones that I normally do.
And I follow Ivan on Instagram, right? And this mother lover, one brother, your body, your temple is getting whoo. And not only that, this guy does calisthenics, right? Is that what you call that? What you're practicing over there? And he could do some amazing shit right now. It makes me think to myself, like, Mark, you need to step your game up. That like inspires me. Not in a way that I'm like, oh, poor me, but like it inspires me, to uplift me, to go out. And when you say that about running, right? Because that's how what kind of started my spiritual journey, was getting my health under control, right? And it really helped push out the toxic shit that was in me. So now when I do it, I look at it as a meditative practice. Like when I'm running, I don't really like running, but my soul loves what it does when my body is running, right? So man, you guys got to go see this guy. He really does some really cool stuff, and I'm excited. I can't wait till you get that, whatever you call it. Yeah, there you go. I've been watching you, bro, and I've been watching how you've been going, and I see the evolution of your practice, right? So he's telling the truth over here.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for that.
Hey, you're welcome. Hey, real quick, just since we're on this spiritual practice stuff, right? I got a question, right? Do you hear or see shit that ain't there?
No, it's not that it's not there, Mark. We're not crazy.
Okay, let me reframe the question. Well, I mean, this is for people that are listening, people, because they know this. We're gonna get a little weird because Miss Isela, right? She's really gifted in an area where she could see things that
Others are not
less
able to
unaware people
see
can't
yet.
see or hear, right?
Yes.
So like for me,
Understand.
I came out just like a few months ago about how the tub is my thinking chamber, and I hear shit that isn't like there's nobody there, but I can hear it, right? So Ivan, do you have an extra sensory gift that has been coming to you more and more as you go through these spiritual practices? There, is that?
I love that, man. I love this topic, and thank you for bringing this up. And it's very curious that you, Mark, you listen. It's like you listen, and Dr. Isela, you see. So you actually have these different sensory, let's call them sensory factors, right?
Modality.
Right, exactly. Yeah, this is amazing because I remember reading this. I will answer your question in just a moment, Mark, but I remember reading about this before by an author that, Mark, you and I know very well, and probably Dr. Isela as well, that's Vishen Lakiani. And he shared that, yeah, we have those abilities. And some of us have different abilities that are more, let's say, highly developed than others. In your case, Mark, is the hearing. In your case, Dr. Isela, is the seeing. In my case, answering your question has to do with feeling. It's like this inner feeling that, I don't know, let's call it intuition, let's call it inner voice, whatever. But for me, it has not so much, it's not so much related with listening or seeing, but with feeling. Let me try to explain. So before, I completely ignored my intuition, but there was this event last year that made me now completely trust my intuition. And my intuition normally speaks to me through feelings. And if something is not right, imagine that I'm about to do something. Imagine that I'm about to make a decision, or I just met someone. And let's just say that it's not the right person to meet for me, it's not compatible, or I'm going to do something that it's probably best not doing it. I feel this, let's say, this heat, it's the best word that I can use to describe it, but it's this friction to do, this resistance to do whatever I'm going to do. And I feel this heat, and now I'm more sensitive to it, but before I wasn't. On the other hand, if I'm going to do something that I really should do, that my soul really wants, I feel this inner excitement. I cannot explain you, but it's like I'm fully energized on the inside. I feel this energy. I feel myself pumped up to do whatever I'm going. If I have a decision and I know clearly, okay, that one decision gets me excited, and the other one, not really. Okay, that one, I go through the excitement. I go through this feeling. So to answer your question, Mark, yes, my developed skill on this, it would be feeling. I feel whatever I need to feel, I feel, and my body just makes it happen. You know?
Yeah, I know when my body starts to make things happen, depending on who's in front of me.
All right, that's a good feeling.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm telling you, you just never know where these conversations are going to go. But I just saying, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a different kind of feeling for me. But yes, I like that we don't pay attention enough to feelings, right? We disregard them a lot. And growing up, right, where me at least, I was taught to not pay attention to my feelings, right? And growing up in the streets, I think people don't know this, but me and Ivan know each other from a platform. He brought a Vishen Lakiani, and we're part of a Mindvalley Pro community. And then Ivan has his own platform where he interviewed me. It was an exciting experience, right? But as you would know through my story, is I was taught to suppress my feelings and my emotions, right? And I'm just starting to now understand and come back to that and how it can guide me, right? Because there is things like, as you said, Ivan, I did a lot of things that I knew I shouldn't have been doing, right? And that body, it would heat up. right? But I still did them anyways. Thank God I'm not in jail. Thank God I'm still alive having this conversation with you guys, right? So I totally, I'm working my way back to trusting that, to feeling that, right? So thank you for that answer. It's amazing.
Thank you, bro.
I think
And
what's really important to mention here is that when we experience trauma, we actually disconnect from our emotional state. And so, what you described, I think, is really critically important. It's the connection to our physical form, and that our physical form helps us be able to identify what might be happening. And both of you described this even with exercise. So what happens in the physical form, right? You get a release of endorphins. And so that sensation, it feels good. It feels good and it is energizing. And I think that what you've continued to describe, even the alignment of hearing things or feeling things or sensing things, or even my seeing, because I think my greatest strength is actually feeling as well, but it really is dependent on our ability to tap into our physical form and our bodies, because our bodies tell us things. But so many folks just function at the intellect level and they don't really connect to their physical form. And that, I think, is where the true alignment is, alignment with spirit. And then what you described about the excitement that, oh my goodness, like I know I'm supposed to do this. This feels good. I just sense it. That's alignment. That's knowing that you are guided, you are divinely guided. And the more and more I think we practice that, the easier it becomes to sense it when it's right.
totally, I totally agree with that, Dr. Isela. The more we practice that, the more sensitive we become to that, like you're saying. And those three things, we talked about the different types of sensations. This called, I think, with seeing is clairvoyance. There's, in my case, it's clairsentience. It's the feeling. And with Mark, it's
clairaudient.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Exactly. But these things, it's not that we cannot use the others. It's that not we have one that is more sensitive to these kind of experiences. And this is really, really interesting. And both of you touched, actually the three of us, we talked about things that are really connected, which is the body, the physical body. And you just mentioned the intellect. Some of us just get stuck on the intellect. And there was a man some years ago called Ray Stanford, and he said this. So if you ask someone, who are you, right? Who are you? There's many ways that we can approach that, but we are more than just a name, right? I could say I am Ivan Garcia, but we are much more than just a name. And the thing is, he defined that as we are spiritual beings. We have an intellect and we live in the physical body. 3 different planes of existence, right? And they are all connected. Like you said, if we work on one, the other 2 are going to feel that. If we work on one of them, the other 2 are going to feel that the same way. The thing, like you said, Dr. Isela, it's brilliant that sometimes people are just working in one plane, which is the intellect. And the intellect, I believe, unfortunately, if we are not careful enough, the intellect is the one that is probably the easiest one to mold and shape through society. Unfortunately, if you do that, the other two elements will suffer with that. If you do it right and it works for you, then you have a good connection, you are aligned. If you just go with whatever people tell you and you feel disaligned, it's because it's not the way it should be for you in this case, right? But thank you for bringing that up. That's a great point.
I think it's the intellect where it's sort of like the ego lives too. And so what happens is we tend to think that we're on this journey or on this spiritual path of healing, and I think we are to some degree, but there comes a time and a place where what got you to where you are isn't what's going to help you get out. And this is where the surrender comes into place. This is when knowing that you are beyond this experience that we are all collectively having, And that if we can tap into that knowing and really trust it, that's when we start to see the evolution of our existence.
Wow, beautifully put. Yes. And going back, just taking a step back onto you, Mark. Yes, we did have a wonderful interview. I remember that we were with Carrie Fisher, and you were sharing with us your, let's say, your life story. And I remember that while you were sharing to talk about this soul's expression and desire, although you had this environment that was not very, let's say, very healthy, a very healthy environment for someone to grow up. I remember that you saying that you did some things that you felt super excited. One of those things for you was music, right? And I remember that whenever you touched that topic, it's like you were glowing. And this is the thing that I was mentioning, is when your soul's desire, it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter what you're doing, but it speaks to you. And that kind of excitement, man, it's contagious, and everybody feels it.
It is. You just gave me tingles right now, right? Because you're speaking that truth, and that speaks to my soul. Last night, I just watched Sing 2, right?
Yeah.
And I've been wanting to watch it for a long time because I just love music. And let me tell you, that whole movie just made me like emotionally happy through the whole thing. Like I could just feel the tears just like touch my face. Here I am getting vulnerable, people. But I tell you guys, I say this shit live here from front of you guys like that. I would normally keep this shit to myself. But as I was sitting there listening to this, right, like it's like my soul was like, oh my gosh, it wants to just jump out the body and dance. And I'm over here loving the music. I'm listening to the story, and it's just like one. You can't put words into it, right? It's just like a release. Here I am, 11 o'clock at night, watching this movie, and tears are falling down my face, and I'm just like in awe, right? And so like when you say that, it is, and it's interesting to me because I've been following that path a little bit more because society has blocked me a little bit on opening up when it comes to my gifts and my talents, right? I kind of want to hide and stay small and be like, right? And so when you said that, it's like, there it is. There's that listening, because here we are on a topic that you brought up because we're all connected. You knew how to speak to my soul, and that's fucking amazing.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing and following Dr. Isela's advice, just surrendering and sharing all of that, man.
Right here, just like that, right? That's one of those things that I've really been learning to do, is just say, hey, and it's okay to speak how you feel, because when you start speaking how you feel, it relieves a lot of stuff. So that's a tip, right, to people that are looking for a way to tap into that inner intuition, to tap into that inner guidance, to tap into that true you, is to just let it come out and share it. Right? Don't keep it in, because we know what happens when you just shake a soda up and you don't open it, right? The can will just explode.
Wow.
And that what happens. That's what I don't even know. See, I just let that shit come out, guys. It just comes out. Yes. I don't even know. Like, what did I just say? I have to watch a replay.
That was amazing. This is awesome.
So we have a question from Talita. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. Can you share some quick tips on how to develop this inner feeling and knowing intuition? And I think we've covered that a little bit, but is there anything specifically that you would recommend to somebody who's just starting to begin to become aware, number one, and number two, to trust that within them?
I love the question. Thank you, Talita. That was beautiful. Yeah, I can share some tips, and after that, I will tell a story to share another tip, the last tip. Okay, one of the first tip: how to develop this intuition or this intuitive skill. Right, great question. Okay, plainly, just searching for or studying about intuition is already a great start, because it gets us aware of something. It's like, maybe you want to buy a blue car, and out of a sudden there are blue cars all over the place. All right, it's that thing that whatever we want to focus on, our brain will focus and we will start getting that. So just Talita, this is great. Just wanting to know more about intuition will automatically makes us be more aware of any intuitive, let's say, information out there that we can actually use, and also going the inside. Read about the topic, read books that can really trigger that intuition in us. I just shared the book, one of the books that worked for me, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. Be and talk with people that already have a high sense of intuition. Let me repeat that. Be with people and really talk about that people that you know that already trust their intuition and that effectively use their intuition, even for daily things, right? Because it's really like that. When we are around people with a certain skill that we would like to have, the more time we spend with those people, the most likely we are going to develop that skill as well, right? It also works on the opposite side. If we hang out with people with bad habits, we most likely will develop those habits or go on to that mindset of that people. But that's the second tip. Now, the third one, I'm going to share probably one of the most spiritually strong events in my life, one of the strongest, which was last year. And to answer your question, Talita, this was the event that really made me completely trust my intuition, probably for the rest of my life, hands down. All right, so it was 2020, 2 years ago, actually, 2020, I was working as a civil engineer. I was working in a construction company. And okay, I had a very, very stable job. With a very, let's say, a very promising career, because in this sector, it's in the engineering business, especially in the construction, the career is very well defined, let's say it. So I was there. I was earning money and regular 9-to-5 job, but I was just feeling miserable with what I was doing, right? It didn't start like that. It started like probably a curiosity. I was going to experience that, but it soon came to be like a very stressful event in my life. And I'm not the type of person that gets stressed easily. And I was feeling this kind of pressure on me, this stress. I was doing something that I didn't enjoy. I was spending a lot of time doing it. And besides that, I had a lot of, let's say, psychological pressure on top of that to get my job done. And even when I was not working, I was feeling anxious. I was feeling stressed because I knew that I was going to go to work. I was going to do the same thing all over and over. And I was feeling miserable. Now, remember both Dr. Isela and Mark, remember that feeling that I told you that my body was heating. I felt this weight on me, weight on my shoulders. It was like, it was my body speaking to me that, hey, this is not what you should be doing. Just stop. But I ignored that completely. And I ignored that for months. For months. My body was speaking, my soul was speaking through me, through my body. And I ignored that. I didn't have much time even to go and work out. So I didn't have my medicine, my healing there. I didn't have much time even to be with people, with friends. And I kept thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? If you knew the amount of times that I asked this to myself, why am I doing this? But I kept doing it. I kept doing it day after day after day. Okay, and this built up to a point that I said, enough, this is enough for me. I started feeling physically super tired. Psychologically, it was this heavy weight on my head that I was not supporting already. And I thought, is this what I want for the next 20, 30, 40 years? If I make it there? No, I said, fuck this, I don't want this. So what did I do? That was the moment that I surrendered to my intuition. Although I didn't know, and I was not aware that it was my intuition telling me. I only found out when I made the reflection some months after. But I said, okay, fuck this. I'll quit my job. I'll quit my job. Like, it was a very hard decision for me to do. Very, very hard. Because I felt that I was doing something from which I studied before. I was actually, by quitting my job, I was going to disappoint my family. Not that my family were very strict about that, but they were happy that I was having a job. And I just wanted to quit. Even going home for me was amazing. And I did it. I did it. You know what? You know why I feel that my intuition was right in the time? Because when I had that talk with my ex-boss, and I told him that I was going to leave, it was a very difficult talk for me. I really respect my ex-boss, and he always valued my word. Although we were in very, very different frequencies, very, very different mindsets. That night, that evening that I quit my job, when I left the office, I still remember the place. It was night. I left the office. It was cold. I got out there and I breathed. And I felt this, it was like this weight was falling down. And I could look at the sky. I really breathed. I felt that cold air. And I felt, okay, man, I'm getting out of this cocoon now. Finally. I'm breaking this cocoon, finally. That was the moment that I felt that I was doing the right thing. It doesn't matter. I didn't even think about, oh, I'm going to be unemployed. I'm going to be out of job. What am I going to do? No. I felt this is exactly what I should have done before. It took my time, but everybody has their own spiritual journey, and everybody needs to go through some things. That was my huge block on my, let's say, my path, but also sometimes those blocks, we see them as blocks, but when we pass them, we look back and we see them as gifts, actually, right? Although we cannot see that from one of the angles. When we turn around and we see them, wow, look how beautiful that was. It was a gift. So to answer your question, Talita, you don't have to quit your job. That's not what I'm saying. But
I say, fuck it, do it.
Yes, if you have anything like what I'm describing, if you feel that, okay, just make some reflection. And instead of thinking too much, it was exactly that what I was doing. I was overthinking every day. That was the reason why I felt so mentally tired. I was just overthinking. If I just felt from the first moment, I knew. If I just felt, okay, this is not for me. I'm going to look for something else. But no, my intellect, my mind told me, no. This is a good job. This is a stable job. This will get you money. This will get you a career. Everybody around you will be impressed. Do it. But that was not my soul speaking to me, right? Those were the voices of my environment speaking to me. But I found out about that later. So that was my experience to me. So if you feel or listen or see, because in my case was the feeling, right? I was feeling this heaviness. I was feeling this heat every day. In Dr. Isela's example, for example, you could see, for example, messages. You could see things talking to you, like things on people's shirts or outdoors, or saying messages to you directly. All right. And sometimes we might think, oh, this is just a coincidence. But is it? Or maybe it's not. Or Mark, maybe you can listen to things. Imagine that I was doing this job. I hated it. And on the radio, there was a song saying, should I stay or should I go? For example, right? Okay. And I felt that. I heard that song to me. And if I felt it, and if for me that is meaningful, it's because probably it is meaningful. Otherwise, we would just ignore that message. But it takes a meaning there. It's important for me. So that's it. Talita, I hope I answered your question. So I did my best.
I think you really did. And I think you really let people know that it's okay. Well, it's not okay to stay in a position that doesn't bring light to you, doesn't bring life to you, was weighing you down every day, right? If you're walking up a mountain and you're carrying a fucking rocks in your pockets, if you want to get lighter, you're going to let those motherfuckers out. You're not going to even think about it. You're going to be like, wow, I want to feel lighter, so I'm going to let it out. But because our job is our security, right? We deal with this a lot in America. I mean, it's probably like this across the whole wide world, right? That's why I'm creating a program that's going to help people turn the toxic environment into a training field for personal transformation, right? Because a lot of people just don't know how to navigate through this gift, right? Looking back, it's a gift because I'm in one of those situations right now, but people are scared to just jump, right? And here's a perfect example of what it's like to just say, fuck it, I'm going to surrender. I'm going to talk to my boss. I'm going to quit my job. And then he was able to go outside and really breathe, right? That's so magical. That makes me want to say, hey, you know what, guys, I'm just going to quit. I have enough money for like 3 months. I'm pretty sure I can figure some shit out. Right. So if you're hearing this right now, somebody, Talita, anybody that's on the airways right now, if you're contemplating in between that, just listen to what Ivan said. Right. And figure it out and start listening, because your soul will not lead you astray. It's going to lead you to the mother loving gold. Right. It's going to lead you to the end of that rainbow. Right. And that's another thing that we were taught. There's gold at the end of the rainbow. I never found that shit. But this is just an analogy, right? You looking for that gold? Listen to your soul. There you go. That rhymed, guys. If you're looking for that gold, listen to your soul. Let's go.
Title for a new song. Let's go. Loved it.
I think fear paralyzes us. And, especially, I'm going to say if you grew up in poverty. So if you grew up in poverty, there's this scarcity mentality, that I'm not going to have enough. What happens when I leave this job? I'm going to, lose all the things that my parents before me, I come from a family. One side of my family is from Mexico, and the other side of my family were migrant workers. So they worked in the fields out here. In Arizona. And so my family before me put, all these sacrifices that they made. I went to college. I did all of these things. And because this actually happened to me, I left a well-paying job because it didn't align with what my beliefs were. It didn't feel right anymore. And that fear will paralyze folks. And I think what happens is we go into overdrive in our thinking process. And this is where I think, Talita, more than anything else, this is where the awareness comes in to play. The moment I start to let fear step forward first and consistently stay there, because it's, I think, a human experience to sometimes experience that initial fear, but it's to keep it in check, to become aware of it, and to really move through it and trust that it's all going to be fine. That's been my biggest lesson, is that the universe conspires for us if we allow it to.
If we allow it to.
If we allow it. That's a big if, people. Like, sometimes you got to just let go of the reins, let the fucking horse run on its own, right? Sometimes you got to let go of the steering wheel and just step on the gas, right? That's it. And just see what happens. Don't do that like literally. Like, I'm not saying go outside right now, let go of the steering wheel and drive past that red light, because we do live in this 3D world and there's certain rules and physics that we have to follow. However, metaphorically, right? Step on the gas and let go of the wheel and see where you end up, right? Because your soul's not going to lead you astray, right?
The soul knows. The soul knows.
It does. And if you're somebody there, like if you're listening right now and if you're thinking to myself, oh my gosh, why did it take so long? You're right where you needed to be, because those gifts that you looked at as roadblocks, right? As you looked at as toxic situations, as bad relationships, those were all gifts when you're able to look back. Ivan said he was able to go around it or above it or under it or fucking through it sometimes, right? Because we're that magical. But when he looked back, he was able to connect the dots and see what the gift was, right? And that's what makes it, that's what makes this journey amazing. And then we come together and we connect, right? From across the globe. Like Isela's in her house somewhere in Arizona. I'm in my house somewhere in Arizona. And then Ivan's in his house somewhere in Portugal, right? And then our stories all kind of came together in a magical way, because a year ago, we didn't even know who the hell each other was. Well, I might have known about Isela, but I didn't know Ivan until like 6 months ago. And here he is. I'm brown and spiritual as fuck. Right? And Talita, she's in our Mindvalley community also. And here she is, like supporting, asking questions. It's so dope.
Talita, she's a beautiful soul as well.
Yes, she is.
Talita knows a lot of things, has a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
We got Talita. And I just would like to emphasize something that both of you said about looking back and everything. We can only connect the dots looking back, really. We cannot connect them looking forward, because there are still no dots. There are still no boulders or roadblocks that we just passed, right? Well, there's an infinite, actually, there's an infinite road, if you believe on that, of roadblocks. But the ones that we actually pass, we can only see them when we look back. And when we connect them, we will see that it will make sense. It will make sense, everything. Well, and this also, the conversation with fear, Dr. Isela, is right. It's real. And it's okay to feel afraid. Fear is part of the human experience. Fear. And something that you said is very important, which is when we are aware of the fear, because sometimes we just feel the fear, it paralyzes us, or we just run away, or we just fight, whatever our reaction is, but it takes control of us. Our emotions, feelings take control of us. So the fear is controlling. But the first step is, okay, becoming aware. Why am I afraid of this in the first place? Why am I afraid to quit my job? Now, I had that conversation with myself as well. I reflected. For me, it was not so much in terms of, for example, of financial lack. It was more like disappointment to others. So this emotional barrier was blocking me in that sense from quitting the job. And but whatever our reason is, becoming aware is essential, it's vital, it's the priority. It's the first step, I would say, becoming aware. Why am I afraid of this? Period. And let me just say something else, because your work here in Brown and Spiritual AF, the work that you're doing here is phenomenal, because sometimes it takes a book, it can take a song, it can take a video, it can take another person, or it can take even a call like this, an episode like this, to trigger this awareness, to trigger this change. And if we just, I don't know, influence one person doing that awareness, that change, this is a win, not just for us, but for everyone, for the world, because there's another person that is spiritually aware. That's it. So congratulations, guys. This is really, really important.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate you having on here. We want to respect Ivan's time. So Ivan, is there any last words you would like to tell people? How can they find you? How can they interact with you and whatnot? Because we are coming up on that hour. And so we just want to make sure that we get that information out to the people that are looking to go a little bit deeper with you, right?
Right. Okay. I'm most active on Instagram. So Instagram is Ivan.Garcia. Ivan.Garcia. Garcia, instead of an I, has a 1. You just put a 1 in Garcia. It was the only thing available at the time, but I liked it. So Ivan.Garcia, you can reach out to me there anytime. I'm also available on Facebook or LinkedIn, but mostly IG is where I'm most active right now. And yeah, anytime. I'm always open to new conversations and to connect with more souls.
Yes. And if you guys are out there, Dr. Isela, Miss Isela, can you stay on a little bit longer if people have any questions they want to answer? So ask. So if you're out there and you're listening right now, if you guys have any questions you would like to ask us, we will stay on for a few more moments, right? We typically go a little bit over. And that's okay. But Mr. Ivan, thank you very much. And if you have to get going, we do want to respect your time. And I look forward to watching your journey. And I look forward to seeing how we start to connect and what we start to create more in our lives as we start to expand spiritually. Right. So once again, thank you very much. We were honored to have you on here as our guest. It's the battle of the Garcias, right? We got to see who we get next. If you guys know any Garcia, send them our way.
We should do Garcias versus Sanchez.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So hey, anybody out there, Talita, you have another question? Anybody have another question? Feel free. Go ahead and throw it out there and we'll continue this conversation a little bit longer. Woo. How you feeling, Ivan?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mark,
Yeah, you're welcome.
for the wonderful questions and also insights. We talked before, but it's always a pleasure to be on a call with you because of your energy. Your energy is just contagious, and even when you swear, it's like, okay, man, just throw it more because it's really authentic, really. And Dr. Isela, it's my pleasure to meet you and congratulate you for the work you've been done, both on your end and together with Mark. It's really, we need more of this. And this is education, right? Although it's a different education, it's education period. And the more educated we are, the better, I believe, human beings we are as well. So this is quality education. Thank you so much, both of you. Make a great team, great show. And I look forward to seeing more of your episodes and insights. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You have a great rest of your evening, Ivan.
Thank you.
Wow, that was fun. This is exciting to have people like really come on and share their experiences, right? I got to know, like, I've been knowing Ivan for like the last 6 months or 7 months or whatnot, right? I met him through a mutual friend, Miss Carrie Fisher, and they do the Mindvalley Heroes interviewing platform, right? So it's really cool what they do. Yeah, it is. Well, it's kind of like what we do right here, right?
Okay.
And they do it over Zoom and then they upload the recording. I don't think we do it live. And so you can find them on Mindvalley Heroes YouTube channel, right? And so my interview is there, which is super duper amazing, right? Miss Carrie Fisher really knows how to ask great questions. Yvonne is really amazing at it also, right? They really put me on the spot and like get me to really truly be who I am. Right. And so I think he had a great experience. I had a great experience too, because I get a what do you got coming up, Miss Isela?
What do I have coming up? So I have, we've shared on this podcast that I've been on this spiritual journey since like I was 19. I'm knocking on 50's door, so I'm old. And I've been trying to figure out like where I want to land in terms of what I have to offer outside of what you and I are doing and some of the other small projects that I'm doing. And I really have been resistant to this. Okay. So I specialize in early childhood education. I specialize in the implications of trauma and how in the early years of a child's life, what that trauma looks like, but not only just trauma, how we engage with children, how we take care of our children, how we interact with our children in the best of situations when our heart is whole and full and willing. The way we were taught isn't necessarily what is healthy in terms of supporting our children's development. And I've been resistant to really focusing on our spiritual understanding in terms of our relationships with our children, or even our relationship with our parents, right? And so I'm so resistant to this. And I kind of have been pushed into a situation where I had this awareness that this is why I've done the work that I've done. It's to come to this moment and really offer to people a way to understand their spiritual relationship with their children, to understand that God did not choose you to be your child's parent. You all entered an agreement and a contract, if you will, and really focus in how you interact, how you engage is really about your healing so that you can be fully and completely present for your children. So you don't fuck them up, so that we don't have to, like we're doing, have to undo all the shit.
We gotta unfuck ourselves.
Right. I mean, we do. That's what we're doing is we're unlayering that onion. And I don't want my kid to have that experience. I want her to show up in the world healthy, and aligned and grounded, and where she sees her true purpose and steps into that with passion. And so I think that that's really what I'm supposed to be doing. So that's where my focus is going to be in the next, I guess, oncoming years.
Was that scary for you to say that shit out loud right now? It was, huh?
Yeah, and it's because in education, because I've done this work for 30 years. I work with educators, not with families, and I've worked with some families here and again because I've been administrator of programs. But one of the things I struggle with is saying to someone, "Hey, when you say that to your child, let me tell you how that might be received. Let me tell you how that becomes their voice. Let me tell you how that's going to impact them. They're 2 right now, but how that's going to impact them when they're 12 and when they're 22 and when they're 42. Let me tell you with just that little thing you just said, how it's going to impact who they are in the world." And so I struggle with that, not because I don't know what to say, but because we have these very core beliefs about what we do and how we want our children to be raised, and that come from our own past. And to it's like I'm going head first into saying, stop that shit.
Yep.
Just stop it.
And I can see how it could be a little more difficult since you were trained in traditional education here in the United States of America, right? So you've been in those boardrooms with these people for so long, right? And now you say now you're kind of going against the grain, which is amazing, because if I would have known this shit growing up, or my mom would have known this shit growing up, we wouldn't be peeling back so many layers of the onion. So if we could really help the future, right, children and parents together, and help that dynamic, I think the world could really benefit from that, right? Because then we'll have people not putting up with toxic relationships, right? And that's in the job field, that's in the in the establishment with church, right? And in a toxic family environment, right? We'll be able to learn to communicate a lot more clear. My mom said something interesting to me the other day. I gave her a book called Something Awakening. That's going to come to me, by Dr. Shafali, right? And she was like, oh my gosh, what is it? Radical Awakening is what it's called, right? So, and my mom, she called me up one day, was like, oh my gosh, mijo. I'm like, what? She's like, do you know, remember when I made you turn in your jersey? Because my mom made me like turn in my jersey when I didn't want to go to practice one day, right? I think I told the story before. I didn't want to go to practice. My mom made me turn in my jersey, and she like whooped my ass for like, I don't even, what seemed like an eternity being at that age, right? She made me go on the field during the practice, tell my coach I didn't deserve this jersey, right? And I was crying. She made me, he was like, it's yours. Anyhow, she made a big old scene about it, right? And then, long story short, I had to go back to practice the next week. You know how embarrassing that shit was, right? But it was a traumatic experience for me. But my mom called me up one day after I gave her this book. She was like, mijo, do you remember when I made you turn in your jersey? That was a reflection of my own insecurities that I poured onto you.
That's huge, Mark.
That was huge. I was like, oh my gosh, mom, that is fucking amazing. Like, and I would have never been able to receive that properly if I wasn't doing the work that I've been doing, right? Because I would have been like, mom, what the fuck are you talking about? You sound fucking crazy right now. You're pouring your shit onto me. Get the fuck out of here, right? But because I am where I'm at, and I've been able to have these conversations with Miss Isela live, right? It's really opened me up to receiving and being more aware of that. And then to see our parents at the age that they're at, like Isela, you say you're pushing 50, right? You don't look a day over 30, right? And we're having these conversations that are super duper amazing, because it is what we are doing in our lives, people. Like when we choose to read books that are uplifting, right? When we choose to go out and exercise and take care of our health, when we choose to become more aware, believe it or not, by default, it starts to spill on over into our loved ones and past, right? We can get weird, right? We're able to heal past traumas. So all the shit that our ancestors had to deal with, we start to heal that also. And I'm getting to see, if you would have told me a few years ago that this was going to happen, I would have been like, you're crazy. My mom, my dad, they ain't budging. They're set in their ways. But let me tell you, it is working. And I'm excited to hear more on the progress that Miss Isela is going to start developing programs to help families through this type of stuff. I think the world needs to see this, and I could benefit from this, right?
Yeah, I think it's really about relationships. It's not just about our children, but there are a lot of wounds that happened as a result of our relationships with our children. And again, it's all parents. So, I work with a lot of folks who are like in their 60s and 70s and 80s. And so
Me
when they're
too.
like, "Oh, I'm having problem with my son," and I forget the son is 65.
That is so funny. Me too. Their
something.
children are older than me and shit.
My son and I are having, and I'm like, he's fucking 65 years old. Haven't you all worked this shit out yet? So it's one of the things that I think it's about relationships. I think in the best intentions, it's like we want the best for our children. So we push and we push and we push. That's not your job. Your job is to help them become the truth of who they are, not what you want them to be.
Ooh.
And so
Ooh.
it's yeah, there's so many layers to this. And it was an aha moment. It was an aha moment. I knew it and I knew it and I knew it and I knew it. And I kept like, I don't want to fucking do this. I don't, because it's like I'm stepping into a place where I'm triggering people intentionally. With the spirituality, we can talk about manifestation and we can talk about being aware. And, there are all these like soft, I think a more softer way that we can kind of approach this. But when we're talking about our children, people get defensive. People feel guilt. People project their own shit. And so when I say, when you do this, this is how it could have a negative impact. I'm like stepping into the fire. So I resisted this for a really long time, but in truth, this is what I know.
Oh, we're gonna burn Isela at the stake. Oh my gosh. No. But check this out. This is what we're gonna do then. This is what we're gonna do, people. If you're sitting here and you're listening, how about this? Start gathering your questions about your children, right? Or about the way your parents might have treated you or have not treated you, or the way they might have seen it through their lens. Think about this in the next couple of weeks, and we're gonna have an episode where we could dive deeper into what Miss Isela is really producing, what she is really, her life's work basically has been, right? Where she's coming out into the world and doing her soul's purpose of what she's meant to do. So if you're listening to this, think about the questions. Think about what your family did or did not do to you. Think about the way your teachers interacted or any type of relationship, right? And gather those questions up and come with us. It's 2 weeks from now, right? So what's today? When's our next episode?
I don't know.
Okay, so 2 weeks from now, if you're listening to this, right? You see, we got to get our shit together. But we just kind of fly by the edge of our seats. So think about those questions, right? And you can send them to us now in here, and I will write them down. But we will more than likely be happy. Well, Miss Isela will be happy to go ahead and answer them to the best of her ability, so you can get a little more understanding of why you don't feel a certain way due to the way you were brought up. Does that make sense? Is that kind of like, is that,
Yeah.
did I say that? Did I say that properly?
2, I believe it's on the 14th will be our next episode. And I'm going to throw out a quick example that seems very, very normal and typical and not about trauma. It's just how we are taught to speak to our children. So one of the things that many parents say is good job. Good job. Good job for putting your things away. Hey, good job for that. Boy, you did a good job playing that game. What happens is that when we praise children from the outset, see, every child is born with an intrinsic motivation. Every baby is born with intrinsic motivation. That means I have an internal desire to learn, to grow, and to develop. I'm interested in what's happening here, there, and that. We take that away from them because we want to manipulate them. We call it motivation. So we manipulate them saying, good job, good job. And what we do is we rob them from their intrinsic motivation, and it becomes extrinsic motivation. And when they're little, it's fine because you can get them. I'll take you to McDonald's if you do this. I'll give you money if you make good grades. We dangle a carrot and we go work hard and this is what you get. And then they become about middle school. And what happens around age 8 is that who becomes really important to children is no longer their parents. Now, their parents are important. They're always going to be important, but their focus becomes their peers. Now, we've created a brain that seeks outside themselves for validation, seeks outside for them. Good job, good job. Did you see how good I did? Did you notice what I did? but now their peers take the place of what their families did. And so then it becomes, trying to show up for their friends, or trying to dress like others, or trying to do TikTok like others, or trying to, send dick pics and naked and nudes of one another, because I'm seeking approval from some of my friends, right? I need my validation to come from outside of me, because I've lost that from within. And it didn't happen when they were 12. It started when they were 2, when you started saying good job.
Wow.
And so that's the kind of stuff. And then you keep seeking outside yourself for validation and approval into your adulthood. And then you come to a place where you're like, fuck, I don't know that I love myself. I don't even know who I am, because that's what Ivan said. I've been performing for everybody else, doing what everyone expected of me. And I didn't want to let people down. That started from the time you were little, not when you were a teenager.
That is so that blows my mind. And Miss Isela is not pulling this shit out of her ass, people. Like, this is years and years of really studying this shit, right? Like, she got the science to back it up, right? She's not just blowing smoke up your ass, right? So, but it makes me think about, like, oh my gosh, like, to relay this over to me, and how I relate to this is growing up and start to gangbang, right? Look how bad I can be, because I was looking for the approval of my peers, right? I was looking for the approval of my cousins. Like, oh yeah, you think you're bad? Well, look what I could do. I'll one up you, right? Yep. Which eventually led me to carrying guns, right? And then which eventually led me to getting kicked out of school. And then we wore it like a badge of honor. Like, oh yeah, remember when you got kicked out of school? Bam, bro, you were bad. It's like, oh shit, no, that was stupid. But I could look back now, right? Like Ivan was talking about earlier, and seeing the gift in that, because here I am, be able to have this conversation alive, well, attacked, healthy, right? Because of the movements that I put my body through, and it's all starting to connect, right? And then I had those conversations with my mom, and then I hear Isela explain to me what had happened. That makes all the difference. And that we're able to set aside our lenses and take somebody else's experience and their schooling and their education along with their gifts and listen, right? And surrender to what is true and what feels good in my body. Like, ooh, she gives me tingles.
Yeah, so that's what I'm going to be working on and Dr. Shafali, you brought, she is one of my favorites. I mean, really, seriously, she's amazing. And I think that there just aren't enough people who are speaking and she does talk about the spiritual part, because she has written a couple books specifically about families and children before her latest book. And I think that there just aren't enough people to really just address our day-to-day experiences and how every moment is a spiritual expression of love.
Ooh. Of love. And on that note, people, I don't see any questions coming in, but thank you for rocking with us. Thank you for listening. I hope you got some really great takeaways from here. And if you love this episode, and if you liked or any of these topics, like really struck a chord in you in a good way or even a bad way, because that might be your shadow, right? Hit the like and subscribe and share with somebody that might be able to benefit from this. Because let me tell you, this is going to be normal. These types of topics, what we're pulling forward, what we're bringing out, and how we relay our soul over onto these microphones, it's going to be commonplace, right? We're a little behind the 8 ball at the moment, but let me tell you, people, these topics are coming to the light, and they're coming fast, right? How do I know this? Because I'm talking about this shit, right? And if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I'd be like, hell no, I ain't doing no podcast. I ain't going on, I ain't sharing shit, right? But here I am. Right. So thank you very much. Once again, Miss Isela, where can they find you and how can they interact with you?
IselaGarcia.com.
Oh, really simple. And me, Mark_my_magnificence at Instagram. Just like Ivan, that's where I'm most active. Right. So thank you very much once again for another episode of Brown Spiritual AF. Much love and light. And we love you guys. See you next 2 weeks.